Hey guys, my name is Haley and today I'm going to be filming my November wrap-up. Yes, I am aware that it is late and we're not going to talk about it. I read, I think 11 books in the month of November, which sounds like a lot, but when you think about the fact that I read all of them in the first 2 weeks of November and then read nothing else for the entire rest of the month, it's slightly different. I have not been in a reading mood lately, but we are going to wrap up the things I did read. The first of those was Just for Show by this author named Jay, who I've been loving their books so much. They do a lot of sapphic romances, and this one is adorable. If you didn't know, I have a thing for, like, not necessarily enemies to lovers, but just, like, thrown together and, like, hey, we're gonna pretend to date, but not necessarily because we hate each other situations. This is adorable. It's about this psychologist who her fiance breaks up with her right before she's about to get a book deal, and she thinks she won't get the book deal unless she has a fiance. And so she hires this girl to play her fiance. She's an actress. And people keep teasing her because this new fiance is very much not her type. And they even like start living together and everything, but it's the cutest slow burn romance I've read in a very long time. I loved it so much and I gave it 4.5 stars. And then I read the first book out of my Midnight Blue bind up, that one being Sunglasses After Dark, and I really like the first half of this book. It's very short, like there are 3 books in this bind up. I liked the first half of it. I really like the world and the way that the characters and creatures in this world are described, but I feel like there was a sort of time jump. Scooby, why are you snoring in the background? There was a time jump in this of where it went back, like our main character went back and told us how she got to the point that she is at currently, which made sense, but it wasn't super clear to me. Either I wasn't paying attention or the book didn't clarify it very well writing style wise, that I didn't know that's what was happening for like a little chunk of this book. So I ended up giving it 3.75 stars. I do think it's a very interesting world and I will finish this bind up, but that definitely like brought it down just a tiny bit. Then I read this tiny little novella called Nothing But Blackened Teeth. This is about a little group of friends that goes to a haunted house, and their friends want to get married at this haunted house. They've always wanted to get married in a haunted house, which, like, you do you. And it was just this cute little novella that's like kind of eerie. I heard a lot of people actually hated this. I thought it was perfectly fine. Like, it was very fun. And I really like this author's writing style, so it did make me actually want to look up this author's other works. When I gave this 3.75 stars, it was a cute little horror novella. Oh, and then I finished the last book that is currently out of the Twilight knockoff series. And this one is Covet. So much obsessed with this series. I really like one of the love interests. He's so cute. And yeah, I really love this. It's just a fun series. It's definitely very much that guilty pleasure series of, is the writing fantastic? No. Is the world super unique? No. It's literally Twilight, but with slightly more magical creatures. But it's so fun, and they're like this thick, and I read this in 2 days on audio. So they're very addictive, and I cannot wait for the rest of them to come out. Hudson is the love of my life, and I will literally die for him. And then me and Kate Buddy listened to Madam, which I was apparently in the minority here, I think, and I really enjoyed this. It is about this teacher who gets a job at an all-girls boarding school and realizes very quickly that something is not right here, and that just judging off things that the girls say, that they might be being groomed. And there's like culty vibe going on here. And I really liked it. I liked the commentary. I liked the, what would you do if you got a new job, went into this school and found out that it was a cult? Like, what do you do in that situation? So I gave this 4 stars. I really liked this. I would read other things by this author, very much so. I thought it was an interesting concept. And then I picked up another tiny little novella, romance novella, and that is Treasure. This is by an author that I really like, Rebecca Weatherspoon, who I loved her other books, Rafe and Shani. I always forget how to pronounce it. Shani was my favorite of them. But I read this. It is very much just smut. Like, that was the vast majority of it. I really found the love interest kind of frustrating, but she also was a 17-year-old girl, so I guess that's valid. 17-year-olds don't know what they want. But It was about this girl who goes to a strip club for her friend or sister. I think it was her sister's bachelorette party. And she develops a crush on one of the dancers at this strip club. And I did really like her. Her stage name is Treasure, and she was adorable, but she also was very valid in her frustration with our main girl because she just didn't know how to be in a relationship. But I thought this was cute. I gave it 3.5 stars for the representation of like people that work in the sex industry alone, because that is not a story that is told very often in a good light. And then I quickly binged The 50-Year Sword by Mark Z. Danielewski. If you didn't know, House of Leaves, my favorite book of all time, the author has multiple other books, but people tend not to love them nearly as much as they love House of Leaves, which I knew going in. And this was a very fast read. It's almost told in like a play format, which I found out later is because it's supposed to be read aloud, which is probably why it doesn't work as well as a book. It's supposed to be like a scary, spooky, like Halloween ghost story. And from what I could gather from reading the literal script, I'm sure it's a very, very good live show, but as a book, it's just perfectly fine. I gave it 3.5 stars. The concept is very eerie. It definitely has that weird horror tone that Mark Z. Danielewski is very good at, and yeah, I'm happy that I read it. Then I read a graphic novel, which was called Grass. This is about the comfort women in the Japanese-Korean War. It's very hard to read. It's very depressing. It is in graphic novel format, so I feel like that offsets some of it, but this is a very important story. I'm very glad to have learned more about it, and I gave it 5 stars, although it feels very wrong to rate this memoir type of thing. But I think more people should read this just to be more aware of this situation and scary history of parts of our world. And then I read one of my most anticipated books of the year, and that is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. Me and Kate also buddy listened to this on audiobook. And I feel like TJ Klune has 3 vibes. He has either super emo and angsty, or he has adorably cute but with good life lessons. And then there's also just adorably cute. So one of my other favorite books of all time is House on the Cerulean Sea. Falls on the adorably cute with life lessons and lots of humor. Wolf's Song and Into This River I Drown fall under this is so depressing and angsty and emo, and I love it. And then this is more just, it's cute. This is a like tiny little tea shop that is the waylay station between the living and the dead before you move on and pass into the afterlife. And it is just this man who passes away, he was a very annoying, kind of a bad person in real life, and he wants to make up for it when he meets all of these characters that live in this tea shop. And there's a little romance between him and what is technically the Reaper, I guess, of the person who runs the tea shop, and talks people to the other side. And it's so cute. Like, that is the only word for it. It's just very cute, very heartwarming, less humor than House in the Cerulean Sea, but it's a very heartwarming story. I love everything TJ Klune writes. I'm going to continue to read all of his books, but yes, this cover is also beautiful. I love it so much. It looks just like House in the Cerulean Sea, and they look very nice on the shelf together. But I gave this 4 stars. I don't love it quite as much as other TJ Klune's, but it's a very solid story. Next up, we have another book by the author Jay, and that is Wrong Number, Right Woman. This cover, I wish it was better because it does not do this book justice and how much I loved it. So this is the trope of you get an accidental text from a stranger. My experience with that trope is always fantastic. One of my favorite things of all time for most of my life was the Klaine fanfiction, the Kurt and Blaine from Glee fanfiction Little Numbers. If you were familiar at fanfiction at all and liked Glee, you know what this fanfiction is, especially if you were on Tumblr. It was probably the biggest Klaine fanfiction of all time. And it's very much just you get a text from a wrong number, and in that world, Klaine, I keep calling them Klaine, Kurt and Blaine don't know each other. That's how they end up meeting. And in this, it is a girl who is going on a bunch of, it's implied that it's almost a Tinder date, but like they have their own version of a dating app in this world. And it's this girl who is asking for opinions on her outfit that she thinks she is sending to her friend about her outfit for the Tinder date, and she's wearing these silly yellow shoes. And our main character replies back, she goes, "Hey, I'm not your friend, but I also really like the yellow shoes. I hope your date goes well." And they start texting. Like, at first they think that was a one-off, oops, accidental text, but then they start texting and forming this not only friendship but almost a romance via texting, which I always think is so cute, probably because little numbers. I also love it in any form of book where there's a lot of like texting involved, because I like that form of communication. I think it's a very interesting way to get to know each other, and a way to tell if someone is a good communicator is via text. So that's something very specific to me that I love. And this was adorable. It is the cutest sapphic romance of this girl who, she's an older woman. She's not sure about dating anymore. She's like chickening out on asking people out. She lives with her sister and her sister's daughter, and I loved their little family dynamic. And then our other romance love interest lives with her best friend, who is a trans woman who I loved so much. They were such a fun character. And I loved it. It was the cutest romance I've read in a while. Like, top 3 of all the romances that I've been reading lately. And I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and it has completely sold me on Jay's works, and I will be reading all of them. And then the last thing I read was the day before I went to Ohio, which was almost 3 weeks ago. I just binged it in one day, and that is Kent State, 4 Dead in Ohio. This is a graphic memoir of the Kent State shooting, which is something I have known about my entire life. If you didn't know, I lived like 25 minutes from Kent State my whole life. And so I was obviously aware of the shooting. I did not know a lot of the specific details, other than that it was over a protest for the Vietnam War. And seeing the map that is laid out in this book, knowing the areas that all of this took place in, even though it took place many, many years ago, was really bizarre, because it's an area I'm super familiar with. And it's just a big commentary on gun violence. It's a big commentary on police brutality. It's just how people can convince themselves, especially in large groups, and mob mentality, of how things can get out of hand very, very quickly, because that's exactly what happened here. And it is very upsetting. Like, please, trigger warnings for any of those things. If they bother you, do not read this, even in the graphic novel format. But I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's very informative. It's a very like text heavy graphic novel, which I actually usually prefer. It's just a very depressing story, and I'm glad to have the full details of what happened, having that be a place that I'm very familiar with and know a lot about. But yes, those are all of the books I've read in the last 2 months. I think I said in my currently reading, I'm only reading like 1 book right now, and I haven't read anything since in the last like 3 weeks besides the tiny little bit of that book. So we'll see if a December wrap-up even exists, other than like a handful of Christmas romances, because that's all I'm in the mood for. Which I'm barely in the mood for that, because I don't want to read. But yeah, if you didn't know, all of my like end of the year videos go up in January, not December. So you definitely have a little wait on those, but I will end up doing like my best books of the year and like anticipating releases and wrap-ups and stuff. But yeah, I'm not going to really try to film for the rest of the year. I will come right off the bat and say that I'm not going to force myself to film, because posting in December is frustrating on YouTube in general, and also my brain is just not in a reading headspace, let alone a YouTube headspace, because I'm barely keeping up with other people's vlogmases. But yeah, just letting you know there may be a slight hiatus, because I didn't warn you about this last hiatus, my bad. But I hope you all enjoyed this. Let me know what your favorite book in the month of November was down in the comments down below. Thank you all for watching, and I will see all of you guys next time.